Good evening, guys. It's Claudia. Hope we're all well today. Welcome to today's 12th live of our Christmas top 12 tips for when selling your home. It's the final. So today, that's my phone. Today, for our final piece of advice, we'll be covering some of the obstacles that you can come across when you're selling a property, and essentially how best to prepare and avoid them to ensure a smoother process as possible. But before I get into it again, if you have just joined us, welcome. There's 11 more that you can catch up on if you are thinking of selling, and all of the previous lives are in the Walton property community group. So head over and join if you want to catch up. I'll put the link in at the end of this session. And also just to remind you all that if you do know anybody, anyone who's on the brink of selling, looking at instructing an estate agent or solicitor or anything within the process of selling their home, please do tag them so they can catch up on the series. It would be very helpful to them, hopefully. And obviously any questions during today's live on today's topic, just drop them in the comments section below. And what I'll do is I'll answer them at the end for everyone's benefit. Super. So when selling our home, we all hope and pray that the sale of our home will be a smoother process as possible, and that we want to do whatever it takes to ensure that we've prepared ourselves as best we can. So to help you in achieving a smooth home sale, which does exist, there are a few potential obstacles I'll share with you now, and just to show you how you can maintain as much control to avoid them and just have a smoother process as possible. So the first one I'll share is to be what we call contract ready. So when we're agreeing a sale, it's so important that you as the seller are what we call contract ready. This is whereby when you've instructed a solicitor, you get the paperwork, you complete all the necessary paperwork prior to even agreeing a sale. And this will include things like the property information forms, the fixtures and fittings forms, and then also the money laundering and identification checks. All of this will assist you once your sale has been agreed. It means that your chosen solicitor will be able to act immediately once receiving your instruction that you've just agreed the sale, and also once the sale memorandum comes through from the estate agent. The other side of it is if you aren't contract ready, this can delay the process of selling quite early on, if you want to see it as a bit of a domino effect, because only then will the solicitor obviously prompt you to fill in that information pack to complete. And as I mentioned previously, those are very extensive forms. And I think it's worth remembering that time is ticking the minute you do agree your sale. And I think it's also, we've mentioned this previously, that we have had some transactions fall through due to the amount of time it's taken on the conveyancing side. Now, some solicitors, especially the partnership, actually, who I quoted yesterday, we highly recommend them. They offer an online portal for their clients to download in order just to expedite matters quite early on. And I think that's really useful. And then on the buyer side, if you're the buyer, now the paperwork side of things isn't anywhere near as extensive as it is for the seller, but it's certainly worth getting quotes and looking at who you could potentially instruct before even agreeing a purchase yourself. Now, the other thing to remember as a buyer is some mortgage lenders will recommend that you use what they call a panel solicitor. Now, this is a solicitor that works with that particular lender, which is common. But if you want to use a separate solicitor or conveyancer to the one on the mortgage lender's panel, it's worth bearing in mind that the lender may charge you a fee, which I think is something just to be aware of. But the important point you need to move forward as the buyer once the sale is agreed, is the survey. Now, by this point, you will have already had your mortgage agreement in principle with that mortgage lender or your advisor. But you now need to contact your financial advisor or the lender. And to move forward, you really want to instruct the full mortgage application and get the survey or mortgage valuation booked in. This will really start the ball rolling on the finance side. So I think the two things for the buyer to really expedite matters once the sale has been agreed or even before is to remember there are two separate sides the buyer needs to push forward with initially. That's the solicitors and the finance side booking their survey. And I think one final point is, now it can be tricky to get both sides to agree on the completion date, the day you will move. And to be honest, we've lost count how many times we've had calls from sellers and buyers within days of agreeing a sale that they want to complete on this day or that day. So you've just agreed the sale and you're sharing a date that you want to move. Now, we understand that once the sale is agreed, that it's good to work towards a date, but setting a completion date in stone very early in the process can really be tricky, especially if there's been no, at this point, there'll be no survey booked. The solicitors are still compiling their initial checks. It's certainly good to get it out in the open, a ballpark date, especially where there are chains concerned. A date for all parties to work towards. I think the reason we say that you can do that is we often have situations where either side has a last-minute holiday that they've booked, or they've had family staying over that week, all kinds of scenarios. But I think it's really key to remember that the completion date can't really be set in stone until all sides are ready to exchange. But do start sharing dates across the chain, just to help everyone work towards, just to have some control as to what deadlines are roughly for everyone involved. And as a side note, one last thing is to make sure that you have, we discussed this yesterday, a sale progressor or an account manager is another title for it, just to cover the overall relationship of the move, updating you on the progress of the transaction, just giving brief overviews to everyone involved, nurturing the relationships with all parties as well, only because they really look after both sides when it comes to things like, not only because, the other thing I think is important and really useful is when it comes to removals, cleaning, times for each side to start moving on the day. This role, they manage the entire process from conception through to birth. And especially if you're a first-time seller or even a first-time buyer, they are the people who will essentially guide you through, alleviate some of that stress, and to walk you through the whole process. And I think that is invaluable when you come through to selling or buying for the first time. So yeah, that is, we thought we'd end off with some nice of some of the obstacles you can come across when you're selling, which inevitably also gives you advice on when you're buying, and how to really expedite any obstacles and what you can do to actually avoid them, some of the steps you can take. So I hope that was helpful. Let me just have a look if we have, oh hi Alfred, thanks for joining us, hope you're well. But yeah, outside of this entire series, I hope you found it all very helpful. Like I said at the beginning, if you've missed out on it, on the series until tonight, it's all in the Walton Property Community Group. And outside of this series, there is advice that if you're a landlord, thinking of becoming a landlord, an investor, thinking of selling, there's a lot of, there's blogs, there's videos, there's articles, all in the Walton Property Community Group, which we hope you'll find helpful. If you don't see it on the group, you can head over to our website. We've got a free advice section. It's just rochills.co.uk /free help and advice, hyphenated in between. I'll put the link in below. But if you want one-to-one advice, you can just direct message me or any of the consultants that you might have on social media. But yeah, if you did find this useful today, any of our lives till this evening, I hope you liked them. Maybe share them for your network. They might have found it helpful. And yeah, please be sure to share this. I think is the most important thing. Let's spread some of the advice that we've got for anybody that, you know, may be thinking of selling. One thing I will say is please do check out the top 30 most saleable roads in Walton on Thames countdown. Craig went out and about. There's some really interesting stats in there. This isn't people's opinions. These are based on figures as to how those particular roads have actually performed over time. Hi, Alex. Really helpful. Thank you. I'm glad. Thank you. Hey, Phil, and hi, Grant. Thanks for joining. Just at the end, but you can catch up a bit later. But yeah, head over and keep an eye out if you do live in Walton on Thames. I think you'll find it really useful to see if your road is in the top 30 and has performed over the last few years. I'll put the link in below for you to catch Craig's. He's done number 30 and road number 29 as well. And road 28 it's being edited at the moment. Also, I forgot the lady's name. Thank you so much for popping in today with your gifts for the Home Start Give a Gift campaign. I'll put the link in below. So we are collecting gifts for local children under their services who don't have the opportunity to open a Christmas present this year. Thank you everybody who's been involved. Tomorrow's the last day, the 15th. So if you do want to get involved, please try and drop them in before 11 or 12, as I think that's when they're coming in to collect the gifts. Anything after then, we totally understand. We'll just drop it over to the offices. But yeah, thank you for joining me, everyone. Just check for questions. Okay. But no, thanks for joining me. And don't forget, tune in tomorrow. We're going live at 1 o'clock just to surmise, is that a word? The whole week's lives, all in one session. And I'll be talking to Craig live as well. So he'll be in the office and I'll be chatting to him, getting his opinions on what we've shared this week, if there's anything he wants to add. But yeah, tune in tomorrow at 1 o'clock and I'll see you all then. Thanks for joining. Bye-bye.